Hi guys, Togger here with a new video. In this video we will talk about the Arms Warrior PvP changes, at least changes in general, and I'm going to let you see how it translates it in PvP and how Arms Warrior actually feels much more stronger because of those changes where you would think it's like very minimal, but it actually adds up, and the PvP balancing is still not done, so it could be even better. But I'm going to talk about those changes and translate it for you guys into PvP and which build you could use to actually make profit of those changes. Of course, it will not be a guide video. I'm going to make a guide very soon about specific builds for Arms Warrior because I'm very like fond of Arms Warrior. I did play a bit of Fury today, but I preferred the Arms feel. And I know that's like not as meta as Fury at the moment, but trust me, with those changes you're going to feel a monster as an Arms Warrior because you already got like held back by those balancing changes, and now they put some buffs into the game for you, and this is actually massive, and you will see. I'm going to talk about those changes right away, and then I'm going to go in game and show you my build and how I can profit with that. So Seasoned Soldier now also grants 10% reduced damage to area effect damage. Now you're going to say, Togre, 10% reduced damage to area effect. That's basically AoE, it's Blizzard and such, what does it even matter? Well, it actually does matter because there is a lot of spells that have a area of effect damage component, which makes it actually good for PvP. Like for example, Demon Hunters, Eye Beam is an area effect damage spell, so it's also modified minus 10% for that. Also Blade Dance, it will also get a minus 10% for that. So you have a lot of spells where you would think it is actually single target because they are hitting you, only you and not your ally, but the component is still area effect damage, so you will get minus 10% of that set damage to you, which is actually massive because again, 10% for free. A lot of classes don't really have that except like a few things, like for example demon hunters have that for magical damage, for example, but we have that for area effect damage. So I think that could be something very big versus a few classes. Of course there are classes where you will not benefit from it, like for example a single target arcane like mage that is going to blast you. Yeah, you're going to suffer from it, but I mean demon hunters, boomies with those starfalls, like destruction warlocks on few spells, demonology warlocks on few spells, it will add up at the end. But this is also a very big change. It makes Battlelord actually a very good talent. It was already a good talent, but now it's even better. You get 25% increased damage to overpower at all times. And you know how many times we do press overpower, it adds up over the whole course of the game. I'm actually critting for a lot on overpower whenever I'm bursting, whenever I'm popping CDs, like for example Avatar. I do feel the difference, and 25% is very big, and I feel like that like talent and that build that I'm going to show you is going to be very competitive in PvP. Although you lose some things, you will see, but I think it's a trade-off that you can really make to have fun with that build, right? Martial prowess, which is the one that you get whenever you're overpowering. So whenever you overpower, you get a stack, and that stack is now 30% increased damage for Mortal Strike, so now it becomes 60%. So basically, you got a 10% buff to Mortal Strike because that's the only like use towards the overpower. It's basically making your Mortal Strike stronger, and that component is basically getting a 10% buff to Mortal Strike instead of like putting a 20% buff to Mortal Strike, which is not possible with all those modifiers. They change the modifiers to make Mortal Strike stronger. And since we are like spamming overpower, it does feel like you get a 10% buff. So whenever you're hitting 20k on Mortal Strike, you will get 22k. And it's not even done. We are going to talk about Accelerating Blows, which is again a talent with a lot of value, because again, if you are going to have a lot of resets on More Strike with Battlelord, with the Accelerating Blows, you're going to basically More Strike all the time. Of course, you don't really want that, because you want to give martial prowess a bit of time, you want to have more procs on your executes, for example, to get more damage on your Mortal Strike, and you want to build that. But whenever you don't have an overpower and you have nothing to actually press, this makes Mortal Strike very useful to press. So you get a 20% instead of a 5%. So every time you have like 1 out of 5 times where you get a reset, and that's pretty big in my opinion. Fatal Mark damage increased by 20%. That is the talent where you're going to stack it with more strikes above 35%, I think, and you can use those stacks with your execute below 35%. It gets a 20% buff, but it is shadow nerfed, I would say, in PvP. It has a hidden modifier which is basically minus 50%, so you're never going to hit a 20k fatal mark, at least not with one stack, because this you will probably have a big PvE stack possibilities in raids in Mythic Plus, but in PvP you will not have like a straight 20% increased damage. It will be softening the PvP modifier, but the PvP modifier also works for this. So you can see it as a 10% buff towards your damage that you already produce in PvP, which is not great, but I think it's something towards PvP where you can have that oomph to actually finish those targets that are very, very low, and becomes actually very interesting for warriors to play like an execute machine build. Where you're going to actually kill people because of your allies getting these targets very low, and then you get like an execute phase where you are going to explode the enemy target, right? Fueled by violence now heals for 65% instead of 50%. Over a whole match, you're going to have a bit of like leash healing, I would say. It's not very big, it's not really noticeable, but it's always welcome. And in my opinion, I take that talent anyways, so it's 15% increased at all times. I'll take that, but that won't really change the viability of Arms Warrior. But all those buffs are going to change it. And here, more strike damage increased by 3.5%. You would think 3.5% is nothing, but it is something, because again, more strike has a lot of actual modifiers tied to your talents, tied to your abilities, tied to your stacks, and it makes it more strike very, very strong and very scary for a lot of people. Now more strike really hits the most out of my kit right now. Even whenever I'm playing a Bladestorm build, more strike really hits for a lot. And whenever I'm doing like a sweeping strikes, Bladestorm with unhinged, and I have like the stacks like being very high for overpower, but also my execute stacks, it becomes like super scary for the enemy team. I critted for like 30%, 35% of the enemy health with just a mortal strike, which is pretty big for an arms warrior. Arms warriors are never going to one shot or one tap someone because it's not meant to be. But if you can do 35% health of that enemy target with your PvP talent, actually improving the mortal strike effect by 50%, so you will have a 50% reduced healing, that guy is not going to survive because he's not going to get topped like anytime. Of course, there are like cheat codes where you have like spells where basically are going to one tap heal them, but I mean, in 1v1 situations or in a 2v2 or 3v3 arena match, it's going to be very, very noticeable. So now you saw what are the changes on wowhead, but what can you do to actually improve and make your arms warrior hit for the amounts of damage that you could hit on live servers? Of course, PvP balancing is still going to be something that's going to happen, but let's hop into in-game World of Warcraft. Alright, we are in-game right now, and I'm going to show you the build that I'm going for to improve that mortal strike as high as possible. Of course, there are talents where you could say, look, you don't really need fatality because it doesn't help your mortal strike, but I like to be not a one trick where I'm just going to do damage with mortal strike. I like to do damage with my execute as well, and this will give me the possibilities to do that. So I go for fatality, a fatality build. My build also is called Fatality, and we are not going for Bladestorm. So basically, whenever you are going for Avatar, you can get Warlord's Torment and not Blade Master's Torment, because really you don't really need that since you're not going for Bladestorm. And you get a Recklessness effect whenever you're doing Avatar and Colossus Smash, which gives you 20% increased crit which again, crit is something that is going to be it's going to be very strong. It's going to be ridiculously strong whenever you're going to crit someone and you will see his HP just vanish. Crit just does that. It's like something that is unpredictable. People are not going to predict a crit. They are going to predict the minimum or the maximum damage that they can do without critting. So whenever you're going to crit, they are going to say, look, what the hell is going to happen to my health? The same for evokers. Whenever they're going for a one shot, often it is tied to a crit, and that's why Warlord's Torment is actually very strong. And it is also a very good talent paired with Spear of Bastion, because Spear of Bastion, if you take Elysian Might, it is still nerfed in PvP. You get 15% critical strike damage whenever they are standing in the Spear of Bastion, and while you're also remaining in that area, and that is also going to get increased by the sharpened blades. You get 10% increased damage towards crits for more strike, execute, and cleave. We don't care about cleave, but it all adds up to one point where whenever you get a few stacks of executioner's precision, which is basically 17% in PvP, so it's 17% times 2, so you get like 35%, 34% increased damage on Mortal Strike, and then you get Battle Lord, like a proc for your Mortal Strike, and then you get like your Dreadnoughts and your Overpower stacks, basically having 60% increased damage of Mortal Strike, and then you're doing Sharpening Blade, again 15% increased damage towards Mortal Strike. You already see the picture, right? You're going to one-shot someone if it crits. And that's why I'm actually building crit right now to see if a crit build is going to be very valuable or not. I think crit is something that is going to be very interesting for a few builds, like for example the Bleed build, the Bladestorm build with Unhinged, and I think it has the most value with this build, with Fatality, with Executioner's Precision, with Sharpened Blades, again increasing the damage of your crit. So if you don't really have crits, this is useless, but if you have a lot of crit, you will have a lot of useful, I would say, damage coming from the talent. I also go for blunt instruments, again having a longer period of time where I have closer smash effect, and then I have of course the Warlord's Torment helping me to get that crit that I need to do a lot of damage. So you see, you have a lot of modifiers to actually improve your Mortal Strike damage. And a lot of people are like watching that 3.5% increased damage of Mortal Strike, which is basically nothing. But it is something with all those buffs like smacked into each other. Like for example, that 60% like overpowered stacks that you can do for your Mortal Strike, plus the Executioner's Precision, which is basically 17% times 2, so basically you will have 34%, so basically you will have a 100% modifier on your Mortal Strike. So right now Mortal Strike does 13.4k, it's in PvE, so I think in PvP it's a bit less. You can see already the bigger picture with whenever you're going to crit, you're going to do times 2 the damage, of course, and then you're going to be golden, you're going to do a lot of damage. And yeah, I'm really liking that build. Of course, it's like a BGE build. I think there's a lot of things I could change. We play with Wrecking Throw, for example, because I play versus a lot of people that have shields, for example, like warlocks, and I have like the Wrecking Throw with the Demolition PvP talent, which basically gives a big FU to Dark Pact, and people are like crying towards that, but I hope they stay how it is right now. I'm very happy with Arms Warrior. I think they will get a few more buffs, but my prediction might be right. I think Arms Warriors are going to go straight into meta once they get a few buffs here and there, and they have a lot of great utility. You can have a multitude of builds to play versus a few comps where you can enjoy your Arms Warrior. Anyways, I hope you learned something today with this video. Please be hopeful about Arms. Do not throw Arms into the bin because Fury is just a bit better, because I think Arms has so much potential for 3v3 organized gameplay, for 2v2, and for solo shuffle. And I think in RBGs it will have a place, because Spear of Bastion is still something very, very interesting in RBG groups. And yeah, let me know in the comment section below if you're playing Arms, if you're interested to play Arms. I will make guides before the start of the season. I'm doing a lot of PvP. I want to test everything and then give a throughout guide where you can have everything into one place. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Again, be sure to subscribe if you like PvP content of World of Warcraft Dragonflight. And if you're excited for Dragonflight, please like the video. It helps me a ton with the algorithm. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.